Well, can I just say that we don't have the mayor or the deputy mayor here, so you're going to need to choose a chair. And to save time, did you want to choose that one before?
That one, please.
Yeah.
Second.
Yeah, okay. All in favour? Against? Abstain, everybody else, right?
Makes it easier, doesn't it?
It was...
Councillor Brown proposed.
Who seconded?
Liz.
It was Liz.
Oh, thank you.
Are we reading this out?
Yes. Okay.
Right, lovely, thank you very much. Shame that the Mayor's not here, but so to be. Right, please note this meeting has been recorded on the Town Council, by the Town Council, sorry. Please note that the recording device is sensitive and the live stream may be recorded by third parties, so do not say anything you do not record it. If necessary, I direct all recording in the room and the live stream to be stopped. But generally I want to avoid doing that, so we normally record everything except any item taken in closed session. Members of the public may also make their own recordings and must follow our rules for doing so, including stopping recording when requested. Whilst we do not accept anonymous speaking in the public forum, members of the public who wish to speak but do not want their name published must please indicate this before saying your piece. Thank you. And just to let you know, this is not being live streamed, it's being recorded and not live streamed. This section anyway. Right, so lovely welcome to this extraordinary meeting, if you like, if you want to call it out, of the Haverhill Town Council. Apologies for absence.
We have apologies from Mayor Smith, Deputy Mayor Lucarini, Councillor Hanlon, Councillor Payne, and is that? Yes, one more. And Councillor Davison.
Okay. Lovely, thank you very much. Declarations of interest and requests for dispensations, anybody? Maybe. No? Okay. Right, item agenda 3, admittance to the freedom of the town of Haverhill. So under the Local Government Act 1972, section 249 brackets 5, to consider the admitting of Mrs. John Key and Mr. Dennis Wendell to the freedom of the town of Haverhill for outstanding voluntary service. Needless to say, I have some stuff to read, which I wrote this afternoon, so I apologise if there's any errors because I've not been brilliant today. So where do I start with Joan? She seems to have been around forever, but is actually believed to have moved here in 1968. I've had to resort to historical newspaper cuttings to get a true picture and may well have missed some early mentions of her name. In late 72, she was actually involved in a car crash of what is now the A1307 near Linton, but thankfully uninjured, because if she hadn't been, we wouldn't be sat here, of course. Early 75 is the date we probably all remember her for, and that was when she was appointed as the traffic warden in the town, with her reporting later in the year that the fine being increased from £2 to £6 made a big difference to the number of tickets that she was issuing. And in 1976, she was pictured campaigning about the amount of litter in the town centre. It seemed that was not her only job, as she is noted being secretary of the Haverhill Swimming Club that year, and I believe she later became its chair. For those of us who remember Joan in her traffic warden role, the smiles and friendly advice she gave was always welcomed by drivers who had transgressed the law, and was massively regretted when she retired to be replaced by someone who had completely the opposite attitude. In 1983, she broke a finger, meaning she could not wear normal gloves. So a kind resident knitted a special pair in order that she continued to write out tickets. In 1984, she had taken on the task of studying physics at home via the Adult Education Centre. In 1986, she was presented with a bouquet of flowers for the terrific job she was doing as a traffic warden by the town's businesses. I'm not sure that would happen today with our CPE officers. Joan was also involved with the old Haverhill Volunteer Centre as its chair, as well as being a governor at both Castle Manor and Samuel Ward at the time. In 1994, an article was asking whether Queen Street should be closed 24/7. Joan was one of the respondents, and as ever gave a very succinct view of what she thought should happen. Perhaps we should have listened to her then. 1995, and it seems so long ago now, brought the quiet retirement of Joan from her job as a traffic warden after some 21 years. She did not want to fuss, and it would be another 18 months before a replacement was found. Even at that time, she had 4 children and 5 grandchildren. The numbers must have increased substantially since. But did Joan retire totally? Of course not. She started becoming involved with running various groups, such as the Breakfast and Lunch Club in the Leyston Centre, as well as helping young people with their reading at local schools. A true community person. Sadly, ill health has now stopped that. As a final anecdote, in 1999, a portrait of Joan was painted by local artist June Muscroft and hung outside the old Cangle School when it was undergoing renovation. A fine reminder of a fine person who's never had a bad word to say about anyone. I'm sure there's much more, but I have no hesitation in proposing Joan Key for the honour of being awarded the Freedom of Haverhill. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Brown? Anyone want to comment at all?
No,
Any anecdotes?
Sounds extraordinary.
Yeah.
Extraordinary. I mean, I didn't know the lady, so
No.
the
Okay.
condition of it sounds.
The only question I've got is, what does that mean? What is you know, for me, that's something new. What does it mean she's actually getting? So before I can really agree or disagree.
She
I
gets
don't
a
know.
certificate.
Yeah.
It's an honorary position.
It is an honorary position. There are several people with freedom of Haverhill. The Royal Anglian Regiment were awarded it 4 years ago now, but individuals have also. I think
They can march their sheep up.
I was
the
just
high
going to
street.
say that.
At least we were going to sing
In
the same
Bury, that is part of it, isn't it?
well,
To drive
we're not sure whether it's marching sheep down the high street or whatever, but it's something as part of the civic events committee. It's one of our agenda items to decide whether we can somehow do that. Maybe next year, set up an event, you know, just to get people out there, and also the people who are still around who've got that freedom.
So there are some things to it, but it's just more.
It's just
an
purely
honour.
honorary. It's just purely the fact that they've been around and.
It's a way of the town saying thank you.
Yeah, no, I get that. It was just I wonder if there was anything
Yeah,
more
yeah.
attached to it.
I think as well, John, she was also a governor at Castle Hill Middle School. I think
Was
she was
she?
also
Okay.
a chair when I was a governor there.
Yeah.
And following her time as a governor, she then became very much involved in encouraging young people to read. She came in about 3 days a week and
That's
sat in the library
Yeah, that's what it says here, yeah.
and did a lot of reading
Yeah.
with them. So she was involved in lots and lots of different
Yeah.
ways with lots of different children and different age groups as well. She was always a very calm,
Okay.
lovely lady.
I would add that we actually haven't told Joan or Dennis of a proposal, so
She was doing the chair.
we will be obviously contacting them if it goes through. So anybody else? No? I've proposed by myself and seconded by Councillor Brown. All those in favour, please show. Lovely, thank you very much. Now we move on to Dennis Wendell, which I think a lot more of us perhaps know. Dennis has been a more recent convert to our town, but nevertheless a worthy resident. Prior to COVID, he was often seen here at the Arts Centre, not only attending shows in the auditorium upstairs, but also most town council meetings, sitting quietly at the back with his late wife Angela, taking in things ready to ask that difficult question about support for the town. Sadly, Angela died just at the start of the pandemic lockdown, but that did not stop him. Dennis continued to get stuck in, continued to help the less well-off and vulnerable despite his own grief. If I may say, he's not in his youth, but still he seems to be everywhere at once. He runs Terrific Tuesdays, a friendship group for those suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia, as well as their carers and families. He also runs the local men's group, which caters those suffering from loneliness. Stated, Dennis still finds time to attend virtually every production of a show or film here at the Arts Centre, as well as volunteering where needed to help out in the centre, such as handing out programmes or whatever it might be. He's also a member of Haverhill Singers. He's actively involved in the Haverhill Hard of Hearing Club and the Haverhill Stroke Association. The list goes on, and I'm sure I've missed a lot. So I have no hesitation in proposing Dennis Wendell for the honour of being awarded the Freedom
Can I
of
second
Haverhill.
that, John?
You certainly can.
Thank you.
Seconded
And I'd
by-
also add, he was also very active on the patient group for the surgery for 4 years.
I knew there'd be more.
And he really made such a contribution to that in a very practical way. He's a smashing guy.
Yeah.
One of the things I'd like to add is there's a number of special people in our community who we can designate as community connectors. You know, we as councillors, we try and connect with as many people as possible, but that's within our role. And it's lovely when a citizen such as Mr. Wendell actually has dedicated so much of his own personal time as an ordinary member of the community, and he's should I say, an extraordinary member of our community. And his kindness, his gentleness, his dedication, I think it's truly to be commended, and he's an absolute joy to know. And I can't think of anybody in the town currently more worthy than Mr. Wendell. I think it would be a very suitable honour.
Okay, thank you, John. Anybody else?
Chair, if it's useful, just to add in terms of, you've mentioned the Terrific Tuesdays and the other groups, the men's group, and there is another dementia group he helps out as well. In all these cases, he hasn't just been kind of an active member. These were groups that were facing closure because the contracted provider withdrew, and he took it on his shoulders to make sure those things kept going. You know, at an age when you think most people would be happy to be a member of a group, but he was determined to make sure all these groups keep on going. So it's particularly admirable.
Yeah, I agree totally. Thank you for that.
And all this while he had an incredibly sick wife,
Caring duty.
which he cared for with amazing compassion. It's extraordinary.
Right, lovely. So we've had a proposal, a seconder from Councillor Margaret Marks. All those in favour, please show. Lovely. So we'll close that part of the meeting at 7:13. Yeah, 7:13.